Welcome to the Seeker's Hollow. I'm Brian. Today we're going to play part 2 of our playthrough trilogy of Morkin. In part 1, we created our character and we set out on our journey starting from the Tower of the Moon. And seeing as that is the first hex that we have visited, I am going to outline that to show that we have been there. And we begin the travel routine, and in accordance with the travel routine we rolled for weather, and the weather was cloudy, and which means no effect. And our starting hex today is a plains, and because we are starting from a plains and we have a horse, and because we don't have any other conditions like fatigue or something, we can travel 3 hexes today. And we will need to make orientation rolls to determine if we can proceed in the direction that we want to. So I would like to go in this direction to this plains hex right here, off to the northeast. So let's make an orientation roll to see if we can successfully navigate to that hex. And our orientation skill here is 35. So, and we have rolled a 95, so we are not going to be successful in that check. And now what we need to do is we need to roll a d6, and that's going to determine how we're going to proceed being lost. So let's roll a d6, and that is a 4, and I believe on a 4 you will stay in the same hex. And we have a nice flow chart here that is in the rules reference documents. And this is always a good thing to have because it provides a very clear and transparent explanation for the player how to proceed through the travel routine or any kind of routine. And it also lets you know as the player what the designer's intent was for how these routines should play out. So it helps there to be, no confusion about what the designer intended for these routines. So on a 3 to 4, we're going to remain in the same hex, and we would roll a d10. And if there is a 1, there would be an encounter. Okay, so we're going to stay in the hex for this quarter of the day, and we can mark that. Now in the morning we did a seek action, so I have put a little dot there. I'm just putting little dots in there because it's easy for me to erase so that I can keep using this each day. But it'd be nice to probably make it laminate this if you're going to be using it repeatedly. So we did a travel action for the afternoon, but we were not successful, obviously, because we are still in the same hex. And now we're going to do this encounter roll. So we roll a d10, and that is a 4. So I think we're not going to have an encounter. No, only if it's a 1. And we would get some fatigue for entering this hex, but I think we do not in this case because I think because we're on a horse. Yeah, because we're in a plains and on a horse, there is no fatigue. So even though we did fail our orientation roll, we are not really going to be punished for it other than wasting some time. Okay, so let's continue on and try to travel to that hex once again. We're going to make another orientation check. And that is a 36, so we just missed our check there. So we're going to roll d6 again. And this time we got a 6. So that means we're going to be moving off to the right of our intended hex. So that's going to be right. Where would that be exactly? I think that's going to be here. So we're going to move south 1 hex. So we'll go ahead and outline that to show that we have visited that hex. And I think we're now going to need to make a check for an event. Let's see, where is the check for that? And again, we do not get any fatigue. Doomdark encounter, no, because our ice sphere level is essentially at 1 right now. Yeah, so here we can roll a d6 for an event. 1 or 2, there's an event. So let's see if we get an event. And we got a 5, so there's not going to be an event right now. And that's going to take another portion of our day there. And so now we are in the nighttime, and we can still travel if we want to, but we also have the option to make a camp. Now we need to decide if that's something that we want to do or not. Okay, so I'm thinking that we are probably not going to camp here because so far we do not have any fatigue. We've only been traveling by horseback on the plains areas, and we haven't done any other actions that have given us fatigue. And so I think that we can continue to travel here, but we will need to eat a ration. So we're going to travel again during the night, and when we start in the next morning, we will need to eat a ration, and we'll also check off 1 day. So let's make another orientation roll. We're going to try to move over here to the northeast again. And that is a 64, so we have failed that check, and let's see where we're going to end up. So that is a 5. So we're going to go down south again, and we're still on the plains, so we don't get any fatigue for that. But we are now in the opposite of the direction that we wanted to go, and that is all because of orientation. So the orientation skill is quite important, as you can see. I would like to go to a ruin or something though, so if we could get to one of these ruins, I would still be happy with that. But yeah, that's going to take care of the first day. So we're going to go to day 2, and we'll need to check for weather, and the starting hex is going to be a plains again, so we could travel up to 3 hexes today. And let's check off our first day on the calendar, and we're going to erase all of those so we can start a new set of actions for the day. And we also need to consume a ration, so let's go over here and reduce our rations. So we have 8, we're going to go down to 7. Okay, so because we did not choose to camp, we're going to get a -10 penalty on all skills, and we're going to gain an additional +5 fatigue for not sleeping. So even if you're not tired, traveling at night is not a good idea. So again, we have a -10 penalty on all of our skills for today, and we get an additional +5 fatigue. So let's go ahead and mark down 5 fatigue here. So I can tell you I won't be doing that again. And hopefully nothing really bad happens on this day because of our skills being reduced. All right, so maybe resting would actually be a good action now that it is the morning. And I'm going to double check on the rules for resting. Okay, so we are going to rest for our first phase of the day here. And resting has one good benefit, which is that you can reduce your fatigue by D6. And you could also do a first aid skill check to heal yourself or your companions. Now, we don't need to do any healing, but we are going to roll a D6 to see how much fatigue we can reduce. And that is at 2, so we will reduce our fatigue down to 3. So that's a little bit of help there. We'll probably have to get the rest of that back from camping. And we're still going to have our -10 penalty to all of our skills. And in addition to that, because we are outdoors, we are going to roll a d10. And on a 1, we're going to encounter some enemies. Oh, and if we do roll a 1, we are actually not going to recover that fatigue. So let's see if we're going to get that. Okay, we got a 5, so we're pretty lucky there. But if you do get the 1, then actually you don't get to recover any fatigue. So that's important to remember there. All right. So trying to make up a little bit there for our mistake of traveling during the night. And now we can choose where we want to travel. Now we are starting from a plane, so we could travel up to 3 hexes today, but we've already used 1 phase of our time. I've already used 1/4, so we wouldn't be able to travel 3 anyway. And we do need to roll for weather as well. So rolling a d10 for weather, we got an 8. And let's see what that is going to be. And an 8 is going to be snow, but there is no effects, thankfully. Okay, so we're going to try to go again to the northeast into this forest area here. So let's roll for orientation. And orientation skill is only 25 now. And that is a 98, so that's definitely not going to be good enough there. Now let's roll a d6 to see where we will actually travel toward. And that's a 4, so we're going to stay in our hex. But we do need to roll a d10. And that is going to be a 6, so no encounter, but if we had rolled a 1, I believe, then we would have had an encounter there. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to stay in the hex again, and that's going to be our afternoon phase. Now we still have our evening phase. And I probably would consider doing a seek action to see if we could possibly find something. Actually, no, we're not in a site, so we can't do that. But anyway, I would consider maybe if I had the possibility of doing something like that, but because we have the -10 penalty from not camping and traveling through the night, I pretty much want to get this day finished as soon as we can. But I will still try to go to this hex again. So let's make another orientation roll. And we got a 46, so that is also not going to pass. And then we got a 6. So we're going to travel again 1 hex to the southeast. So I have been wanting to go east, but not necessarily to the south. But hey, we might actually be able to get to one of these sites down here, so that could still be interesting there. So let's check off that phase, and now we're at the night phase, and we are definitely going to camp. So let's look at the procedure for camping. All right, so we can only camp at night, which involves sleeping. We're going to perform a camp skill check, and if we are successful, then we will recover D6 plus 2 HP and D6 fatigue. And if you get a critical, you can recover D10 HP and D6 fatigue. And if you fail, then you'll roll on the camping trouble table. So, and we are just out in the wilderness here, but if you were in some kind of a settlement, you have some different rules there. So let's look at what our camping is going to be. And we've got a camp skill of 35, but that's actually going to be 25 due to our skill penalty today. And we got a 99, so we almost got 100, which would have been a fumble. And I think we're still going to have to roll on the camping trouble table even though we didn't fumble. Yeah, we still need to roll on the camping trouble table because we failed the check. So we're going to roll D10 for that. And we got a 3. And that's going to be that the area is very humid and the Moskins will not leave you alone. Or Moskrin. And it says that in Moskrin attacks you. Okay. So how many Moskrin is that going to be? Okay, so here are the Moskrin. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to find what the N means. I'm assuming that's going to be a random number, possibly a D6 or a D4, but unfortunately, I just have not been able to find that. So I think what I'm going to do is roll a D4 to see how many Moskrin are going to attack us. And that's going to be a 3, so we're going to have 3 Moskrin attack us here. And the Moskrin is a giant mosquito-like insect that has emerged from the fearsome and frigid world of midnight. Measuring 6 inches in length and with a wingspan of 1 foot, it boasts an icy blue exoskeleton and frost-patterned wings providing excellent camouflage. This silent predator employs its toothed proboscis to feed on the blood of warm-blooded prey, injecting an anesthetic and anticoagulant to ensure a painless and uninterrupted meal. Adapted to extreme cold, the Moskrin is a master of survival in its harsh environment. So I think 3 of these guys might be pretty tough. They can drain blood, which can recover their hit points. They do not have a very high defense value, though, so that's good. So let's see what we can do with these guys. Okay, so we are set up to face the Moskrin here. We've got 3 Moskrin with 10 hit points each, and then we have Morkin with 50 hit points. And we're now going to roll a opposed check of perception for the initiative. Their perception is 30, and ours with the penalty is also 30. So let's roll for that. And that looks like a 17 for us and a 32 for the Moskrin. So they have failed their check and we have succeeded. So we're going to get we're going to attack first and we're going to get plus 10 on our first attack. So that would give us an effective melee of 60, taking into account our penalty. So let's roll for an attack on the Moskrin. And that is a 28, which is going to hit. Their defense is 10, their effective defense is 10 by taking half of their defense value. So we need to roll above 10, but we need to roll under 60 in this case. And we've got a 28, and that is going to be successful. Let's roll for damage. And that is 5, so that's pretty good. And I don't see that the Moskrin have any armor, so he's going to take 5 hit points. And now the Moskrin will get to attack. So let's roll for them, and 56, that's going to be a miss. And a 55 is going to be a miss. And another 55 is going to be a miss. So that's pretty good there. So we do have some other attacks that we can do. We can also do a desperate attack, or all-out attack kind of thing. And then we can also do a like an aim for the weak spot kind of thing. And if we get to a place where we're taking a lot of damage, or we're just kind of like swinging a lot and we're not hitting anything and we want to try to go for a big blow, I'll probably do that. But for right now, we already landed a good hit on this Moskrin, so let's go ahead and just try to hit him again. And we got a 43, so that's going to be fine. That's going to be a good hit there. And we can roll for damage again. And that's going to be 2 damage, so a little bit disappointing on the amount of damage there, but at least we got another hit. Okay, now the 3 Moskrin are going to get to go now. And that is a 14. They need to roll above 25 to hit us. So that is not going to do it for them. Now, normally they would need to roll above 30, but we have the penalty, unfortunately. So, a 1. Okay, now that is a critical hit. And on a critical hit, they will do a precise bite that draws a significant amount of blood, and the attack's going to deal 4 hit points, and the Moskrin will heal by 4 hit points. Oh man, that's bad. So this first Moskrin here is going to, or was this the second Moskrin? Honestly, I can't remember, but we'll go ahead and apply it to the first. We'll give them the full benefit of this here. So he's going to heal up 4 hit points, and we are going to take 4 hit points. So we'll mark off 4. Actually, we're going to take off 3 because we do have armor. So we do absorb 1 from our leather armor. So we're going to take 3 hit points. Okay, and now the third Moskrin. I believe this is the third Moskrin. Honestly, I can't remember. But anyway, I think that's the third Moskrin. And that's going to be not low enough for a crit and not high enough to beat our defense. So, all right. That is a 1. That's a critical hit. Very nice. So we're going to get to roll on the critical hit table. I think we do need to roll for damage first, so let's do that. So 3, and then we're going to roll on the critical hit table, which I believe is a D6. Yes. And that's going to be a 4. Deal the maximum possible with your weapon, including any applicable bonus, plus an additional 2. Okay, so we're going to deal 6, 7, 8. So that Moskrin is vanquished. Moskrin number 1 is Dunzo. So bye-bye. So we've only got to deal with 2 Moskrin now. 71 is going to be a miss. And 93, that's going to be a miss as well. Oops, and I threw my dice. And that's a 51. I believe that is going to be a miss because we have a score of 50 now. Yeah, so we missed, unfortunately. 63 is going to be a miss. And 90, that'll be a miss. And then a 36, that's going to be a hit. Let's roll for damage, and that is a 5. So we'll do 5 damage to Moskrin number 2. All right, Moskrin number 2 is going to attack. And he got a 9. That's not going to hit. And then Moskrin 3 got a fumble. And the Moskrin's feeding tube becomes clogged with debris, causing it to struggle and lose its next attack as it tries to clear. Okay, so there's only going to get 1 Moskrin's going to be attacking next time. That's good. 71, we miss. All right, 1 Moskrin will attack. 50, they miss. Our attack, 35, that's going to be a hit. Let's roll for damage, and that is a 2. Unfortunately, a kind of rather sad amount of damage, but that's okay. All right, now the 2 Moskrin can attack. 93, that's a miss. And 37, I believe that might be a hit. That is going to be a hit, yes. So let's roll D6 to see what attack he's going to do. That's a 4, so he's going to do the standard attack, I believe. Yeah, he's going to do the standard attack, which is D6 minus 2. Okay, so let's roll D6. So that's 2 minus 2, but it's still going to be 1, but we absorb, so I guess nothing on that one. And I think, did I do that one wrong? I think that was a critical, so... Although I don't know if I should still take 1 off for absorption on that. I'm not sure about that one, but... yeah, okay, so... Now it's going to be our turn, and we are going to get an 86, which is bad. And Moskrin number 2, 67 miss. Moskrin number 3, 60 miss. Our turn, 99 miss. At least we didn't get a fumble. 20, that's going to be a miss. And 63, that's going to be a miss. Okay. Our turn, 55, that is unfortunately a miss. And a 12, that's going to be a miss. And a 26, that is going to be a hit because they have to get above 25. Rolling for attack, 4 is going to do the standard attack. Rolling for damage, 5 minus 2 is going to be 3. Minus 1 is going to be 2. So we've taken 5 points of damage. All right, roll our attack, and that is a 17. That is going to be a hit. Let's see if we can finish off 6. Okay, so the cool thing about Morkin is that you can do your extra damage when you kill an enemy goes to the next enemy. So we did 3 and then 3 to the next enemy. I like that. That's a very cool rule. Very good idea there. All right, so we've only got 1 Moskrin left. 73, miss. And 39, that is a hit. Let's roll for damage. And we just got a 1. That's pretty sad. Okay, so 1 damage there. Moskrin. 19, that is a miss. And 13, that I believe that is going to be a hit. We just need to roll above 10 to hit them, so let's roll for damage. And another sad damage roll of a 2. All right, Moskrin, 56, that's a miss. 79, that's a miss. 57, that is going to be a miss. And we're going to roll our attack. And a 90, that is a miss. Okay, and the next Moskrin, 38, that is going to be a hit, I think. Yes, that is a hit. Let's roll for his attack. It's going to do 1 standard attack. 6. He got a good damage roll. That's going to do 3 damage to us. Now, if only we could roll a good damage roll sometime here. Okay, 33. That's going to be a hit. Let's get a 6, please. 1. Very nice. All right, Moskrin. 21. That is a miss. And 87, miss. Moskrin, 87, miss. And 43, that is a hit. And 1 damage again. Awesome. Okay. All right. Moskrin, 13, that's a miss. And 94, that is a miss. And 41, that is going to be a hit. And a 4. But -2, -1, that's going to be 1 damage total. All right, let's get a hit here. 72, that's a miss. 61, that is a miss. And 88, that's a miss. And 64, that is a miss. And 99, that is a miss. Almost got a fumble there. And 74, nope. And 40. Okay, so we're going to hit on 40. And we got another 1. Awesome. Oh, I think Morkin's weapon needs to be sharpened. He's trying to kill this Moskrin with a butter knife, apparently. 36, that will be a hit. He's going to do a standard attack. And he rolls a 5. Again, another respectable damage roll. For them, -2, -3, so he's going to do 2 damage. Maybe we can get, although it doesn't matter now, 7 is a miss. I was going to say maybe we could get a good damage roll, but it really doesn't matter because he's only got 1 HP left. And that's another miss there. And 36, that is going to be a hit. And a 6. All right, that's going to be 3 damage. So very lucky Moskrin and very unlucky us. Okay, miss. And a 12, that is a miss. And a 67, that is a miss. And a 46, that is a miss just narrowly. And a 13, that is going to be a hit right there. And a 6. Oh, now we get a 6. Okay, well, anyway, Moskrin 3 is dead. We have vanquished the Moskrins. How much damage did we take? We took 14 damage. So we're going to be down to 36. And all in all, that didn't go too poorly, but yeah, having that 10 points penalty from our not sleeping really hurt us there, because we really need every point of melee skill you can possibly have in order to get some more hits on these enemies. And then, of course, just rolling all those low damage rolls. It'd be nice if there was an item like a whetstone or something where you could sharpen your blade and maybe it'd give you a +1 or something like that. But of course, you do have, like I said, there are two other kinds of attacks. There's a desperate attack and a aim for a weak point. The only downside about that is that when you already have a poor attack skill, either due to just starting out or maybe due to some kind of penalty, you have to skip your whole attack turn and then go to the next turn to be able to roll for that extra damage. So that's another tough thing to do too when you're already having a hard time hitting as it is. But anyway, really that overall that didn't go that poorly, except for just a lot of bad luck with our final damage rolls there. But we didn't really take that much damage. And now we can roll for some loot from the Moskrin. So we've got 3 Moskrin. And we're going to get 2, 2, 4. So what is that? That's going to be 2 Moskrin wings and 1 Moskrin leg. So we'll put the wing and the leg. So we get ×2 and ×1 leg. And we also get 3 experience. And I think that's about it for that. Yeah, so, but now we of course, we didn't pass our camping check, which is too bad. And let's see, our weather for day 2 was snow. So we're not going to get any recovery of fatigue or hit points because we did not pass our camping check. And probably the first thing we're going to want to do now, now I don't know if that also means that we have to take more fatigue loss. And if we continue our -10 penalty, I think that's only if you do not camp at all. But maybe because we failed the camp test, well, that's going to be bad. We could be at death's door pretty soon here, if that is indeed how camping works. Let's see, double check that. Okay, so thankfully we are not going to get another -10 penalty and fatigue, because it says that if you choose any other action, but we did choose camping. So even if you fail, it seems like that does not apply. So that would be really harsh if that still applied. So, all right, so going into this day, we do not have the penalty anymore, and we also need to consume a ration, so we're going to go down to 6 rations. And yeah, so we've completed our first combat, and we survived fairly well. And then when we come back next time, we will keep getting lost in the forest because we have been going the wrong way. But if we can get to one of these ruins or something, that would be pretty cool. And so hopefully we can do that in the part 3. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Take care.